Good morning, everyone. So for today, I will be presenting about globalization and education. But first, I want you to describe the image to me. What can you say about the image in front of you?
I can see that there's a two faces with a gap, and I can see that the other one is you know, I can say that it is full-grown community, while the other one looks like abandoned.
So, what can you do about the gap that you said from the picture?
For me, I choose to put a bridge to connect to the other side of the place.
Yeah, that's correct. And but what I want to talk about to you first is private and public schools. So as we know, private schools are funded by the tuition fee of the students or a private body, and public schools are funded by the state or the national government. However, the goal of schools, all schools, is that as we progress today, academic achievement is not only our main goal already, but also teaching our students to learn skills, be ready once they step out of the school, and learn different values. Globalization, in a term, is that a process when the world becomes increasingly interconnected, such as trading, the evolution of technology or our connection with technology, and the different transnational companies. However, despite the advantages of globalization in education, why do we still have inequalities when it comes to education? So, for you, why do you think we still have inequalities when it comes to education?
For me, it's like that because of the mindset of the people. The others are not so rich, and other ones can only afford low qualities of education.
I agree with your answer. And we can say that globalization has a close relationship with education. As we progress and use technology in our everyday lives, we are now easily connected to each other, even though we are 1,000 miles apart. Traditions, cultures, strategies, and approaches in education are all being shared today using technology and or social media. When we talk about education in the globalized world, there are two main paradigms of education reform. First is the market forces approach, and second is the human rights approach, which we are going to focus on today. So, human rights approach is when we are entitled to fulfillment of education to be an empowered citizens. However, we should take note that both types of approaches aim to invest in education. Also, an international covenant of economic, social, and cultural, international community is obliged to cooperate when a nation does not have sufficient resources. However, we can see that this is kind of ironic because there are a lot of countries today that do not have sufficient resources when it comes to education. But we can't see that all countries or several transnational companies or private companies have fully reached out to be able to fund to having sufficient resources to all the educational systems that we have. And talking about equity and development towards education, what we know as the World Bank Group, or they have what they call learning for all, and ensuring that all children can attend school and learn. And they know that they are committed to helping countries reach sustainable development goal, which calls for access to quality education and lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030. So basically, that's their goal as a group. However, one of the things that has never been within the agenda of the World Bank in education policy is educational inequalities, is equity as a policy goal. We can see that schools who have equity perform better. Talking about equity, basically equity is just the quality of being fair or impartial. And equity, so education contributes to economic development and poverty reduction. They are able to provide services and jobs for the poor to reduce poverty. Education contributes by increasing the productivity of individuals increasing the productivity of society. With equity, education systems will be divisive, such as they won't be able to contribute to the national income growth or the national poverty reduction. However, in the 21st century, education has been affected by all of the changes before the 21st century, such as trading, exploitation, evolution of technology, etc. So we can see here the comparison of 19th century and 20th century. So with 19th century, there's the starting of universal public schooling. And then towards 20th century, the purpose of education expanded to include individual fulfillment. And now we're here in the 21st century where we have the paradigm shift. Here we can see that the well-being of humanity is recognized as dependent with the well-being of the planet. Schools are no longer closed off their surroundings but are hubs of collaboration. And education systems aspire to implement flexible dynamic curricula that recognize the difference between individual students and maximize their full potential in an uncertain future. And I think that as future educators, that's also our goal, to be able to maximize the full potential of our students. And how can we maximize globalization for the betterment of our educational system? Since knowing that we have a traditional approach for the past few years, and now that we're trying to move to our new normal, um, what we have in a traditional approach, such as students learn by listening, teachers only teach, we only have linear and standardized curriculum, and academic performance is the only priority, and students are assessed through standardized tests. However, what we have today with our new normal, as I said, is that our education system embody the new normal, such as decision making and responsibilities are now being shared by the different stakeholders. Students are active participants of their own learning. The learning process and students' well-being are well valued in addition to their academic performance. And the academic performance is not only their target, but also different skills, learning the tradition and cultures of their peers, and also learning the different values that they can also use once they step out of the classroom, and recognition of students that come from different backgrounds. And lastly, as we progress globally, we should not forget that education is a right of every human being as a tool to becoming a productive citizen in their own countries. It is not only that we progress in our economy, but also it is how we progress and also in education, because it is not only a privilege, but education is our right. So thank you, and I hope you learned something from me today.
Thank you. I learned something a lot much more.
Yep. How do I